Okay, thanks, Linda. We'd like to welcome everybody to Growing Concerns for April the 24th. And as Linda mentioned, we're having a bit of a problem with Kristen getting her to be able to join right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get that solved before her time is on. What we're going to do to start with, I'm going to go through a little bit of a crop update and really just talk a little bit about the winter wheat situation and how things are looking with winter wheat. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about seed treatments. Nothing too technical, just starting to get some questions whether guys are wondering if they should be seed treating or not. So I'm just going to have a few slides to talk a little bit about that. After that, if we are able to get Kristen on, she has a presentation about giving your seed the best possible chance right from the start. And basically we were hoping to cover is, I guess, issues with seeding. And as we get a little bit later, everybody's going to be in a bit of a rush to get the crop in. And just little things to watch for, little things you should be looking for when you're going out to start seeding and when you are seeding. So hopefully we'll be able to get that presentation on. If for some reason we can't, the webinar will be shorter today, but we will be able to get Kristen's presentation and hopefully get it onto the recorded somehow. We may be able to watch it later, or we will get her at a later time. But with that, I'm going to start. And I'm going to talk a little bit about winter wheat. Starting to get quite a few calls and concerns from producers that they're wondering how the winter wheat is doing, if it's good, if it did get off to a great start last fall, and a lot of fields, the seed just germinated, it was underground still, and never did come up. And producers are wondering if the prolonged winter we seem to be having, if that's causing some problems with the seed and what we're going to see. So I have got out the last couple of days here, and I have started to dig up some plants. And as you can see, it's still fairly frosty out there in the morning. So when you get out there, there's lots of the winter wheat. This is winter wheat that actually came through the ground last year, and really have no issue as to these plants making it. They look like they're healthy. I've dug these ones up, and I've got them growing in the office here. So hopefully within a couple of days we'll start to see new roots shooting out for the crowd, and the plant surviving. The issue is these ones. I dug these ones up. They were about inch to inch and a quarter deep. And as you can see, there's little sprouts on these seeds, but they never did make it through the soil surface. And because of that, the question is, well, whether they're going to survive. We have seen this in the past. We've had winter wheat that was sitting in dry ground and never germinated and did make it through the winter. I guess, however, we did have the same type of conditions that we had this winter with prolonged snow on the ground, and there's probably a fast melt that's going to happen. And in some situations, we're probably going to have water laying in areas for a prolonged period of time, and I could see some of those being issues more than if these ones were able to survive the winter. It's going to be the time it takes for the snow to go and the time it takes for the water to go. But there isn't a lot of frost in the ground. When I got digging these up, probably 1.5 inches to 2 inches of frost. I know last week Mike Roblinski was on, and he had mentioned that this week we would probably see a lot of the frost leaving the ground. And I know yesterday you definitely could see, yesterday afternoon when I was out in the field, you definitely could see the top inch or half inch anyways where the soil was unthawed, but you get down to about an inch below that, there was still frost to the ground. But like I said, it doesn't go down very deep. This is just another couple pictures regarding the wheat seeds. And like I said, I've got several samples that I've got into the office here. While I was out in the field yesterday, I also excuse me, I also took some temperatures of the soil temperatures, and I had one question whether there was much difference between snow that's still on the ground in the winter wheat field and the bare areas, if there's much difference in temperature. And you can see where the snow area here, we were below zero, minus 1, minus 2 Celsius. And interesting, just below this layer of snow, it was solid water. So the ground there is some heat there, and there is definitely moisture with the snow melting. If you go to an area where the snow is gone, the temperature is +1, +2, so you definitely have those areas warming up. Now this would be approximately 1.5 inches into the soil surface. So basically right where the winter wheat plant is sitting. If you go a little bit deeper, probably in this case here would be a little bit colder, because when I was digging out the plants, there was still frost underground in some of those spots. But definitely it's a little bit warmer on the areas where there is no snow, and there is definitely a lot more moisture underneath that snowpack than there are in the open areas. With that, I was wanting to bring up a meeting that we're going to be having one in Habiota and one in Souris, and we're calling them the winter wheat survival meetings. And part of the meeting is we're going to show producers and industry how to determine if the plants has survived the winter. And there's a couple ways you could do that. One is where you dig up the plants, like I've been doing the last couple of days. There's also another bag test you could do, and we'll be showing you how to do these, so you could actually see if your plants have made it through the winter. We're going to look at rotations and disease issues in case the crops need to be destroyed. In some cases, some of the crops may not make it, and there are some disease issues for sure that producers need to be aware of before they go in and just plant, say, another wheat crop into that. We're going to have Ducks Unlimited there, and Ducks Unlimited has a program with winter wheat growers, so they'll be there to give a little bit of update on what they're doing. Crop insurance is changing this year for winter wheat, so we'll be able to have somebody from MAFRI there to give us a little bit of update on the crop insurance. WADO has variety trials of winter wheat throughout the Southwest, and they'll be there to talk about their variety trials. They also have some fungicide trials as well. And then we'll have a little bit of a look at the fertility. We'll talk a bit about what needs to be done with the winter crop, especially if we're looking at keeping the crop, or if the crop has made it through the winter here. So there'll be 2 meetings, May 1st in Habiota, and if you want more information about that, right now it's scheduled to be held at the Habiota Go Center. So if you want information, or you want to let them know you're coming, that's the number for the office at Habiota. If you are coming to Souris, the Souris, we're going to be having it at the Kirkup Lounge, which is at the community complex, and that's the number there for the Souris Go Center. And if you want to let us know ahead of time, that would be great. The meetings are going to start from 10 and probably go to about 2 or 2:30. We'll probably take a short lunch. We'll have lunch brought in, and probably only take a half hour for lunch, and this way we could get people out in good time. And also, like I mentioned, we'll have displays of winter wheat plants there, so if you're wanting to come and take a look and see what to look for when you're out in your field scouting, that'll be a good opportunity to learn some information on winter wheat. With that, I'm going to leave winter wheat now, because really there's not much more to mention until we determine if it's survived the winter. And so I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about seed treatments. The big question I'm being asked is, should you seed treat this spring? And it's always been a kind of a common thing if you're out there sowing early that you should treat the seed, because a lot of times the seed will sit in the ground for a long period of time, and usually in cold, wet soil. And producers are saying, you know, or we were always telling producers that that's the optimum time to be treating seed, because it's going to sit in the ground for a while. It has the potential to, you know, be in contact with a lot of the soil-borne diseases, and a lot can happen during that time period. So why do we seed treat? Number one is to control disease. We also seed treat because we may have some insect issues in our fields. And a lot of the companies now are making claims that we could increase plant health by treating seed, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So to control disease, by seed treating, you get plants going off to a good start, and because they go off to a good start, they're able to fight off the diseases that are soil-borne diseases that can affect them. Also, if the plants are, and I mentioned this, if the seed is going to sit in the ground for a long period of time, it's good to have that seed treatment on, because it'll be more prone to pick up disease. The question is, as the soil warms up here, and if we start getting 17-degree days like they're calling for, you know, the seed isn't going to sit in the ground, so am I going to get the value of a seed treatment? Probably the disease issue isn't going to be as big a factor, but you also have to remember that if you have insect issues or this whole issue of plant health that is coming up here, those are two benefits that might help your plant get off to a quicker start. So when you look at insect control, a lot of the insects, or one of the insects that does a fair bit of damage in some areas, if it's in the field, is wireworm, and they seem to do better under wetter conditions. And we got so basically this spring we're looking at probably good soil moisture conditions, and in that case, you know, we could see some problems with wireworms. I know of a few producers that have had wireworm issues in the past, and being that it might not be a bad ideal this year if they're sowing, especially sowing cereals into those fields, to treat those fields, because basically we have potential for wireworm to be an issue. Most of the products that you'll be using work against wireworms more through ingestion and contact, but most of it is through ingestion. And I'm just going to use Roxo WW as an example. When wireworms feed on plants treated with Roxo, they kind of enter into a coma-like state and stop feeding. So we're actually not killing the wireworm. All they're doing is making him not hungry, and he kind of just lies around. So meanwhile, the crop continues to grow, and once the crop gets big enough, the wireworm can't do enough damage to it to you know, kill the plant. So basically, once the wireworm recovers from the insecticide and starts feeding again, the plant is big enough that it's not going to do enough damage to it. So we've gone from the days where the seed treatments we were using was actually killing the pest, and we've gone to products now that basically just more like keep the pest at bay for a while, and then they go on. The other thing I mentioned was treating for plant health. And a lot of the companies claim that a lot of the seed treatments now also help plants handle stress events. So whether we get good growing conditions right after planting, and we've got good soil moisture now, but let's just say, for example, it stays cold, then the seed treatment will help that plant continue to grow during those stress events. A lot of times what might happen is when a plant is under stress, it tends to shut down and kind of just sit there until the event changes, and then it can start growing again. What seed treating does is helps to keep that plant growing, and by doing that, by doing that, we are basically not losing any time with that plant, and you're getting more development, and then the plant is able to, I guess, withstand some of these events. So it's a pretty good claim they're making. We've seen a lot of information over the last year or so that's showing that there's a lot of potential here. So on a year like this, where we might be getting off to a late start, seed treating might be a good option, just for the fact to give that plant every opportunity to grow and kind of catch up the days for maturity, because every day we're not in the field is more days at the end of the year here, and we could run into some issues in the fall. So I guess regarding the seed treatment for this year, I kind of say that maybe it might not be a bad option just because of our timing and when we'll be getting it out into the field. I guess with that, that's kind of what I wanted to mention, a little bit about seed treatment for this go-round. I didn't want it to be a lot of technical information regarding how each of the different products work, just kind of a little broad view of it. And I think we've got Kristen now, so I'm going to get Linda to turn it over to Kristen, and we'll get her presentation.
Okay, I'm just making Kristen the presenter. If you could just show your screen, Kristen. Okay, awesome. We can see your screen now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So you go ahead whenever you're ready. Okay,
great. Well, thanks for having me on the webinar today. I appreciate it. And as Lionel mentioned, I'm going to talk about, setting yourself up for success. We want to make sure we give each seed the best chance right from the start. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kristen Phillips, and I'm the agronomy specialist for Manitoba for the Canola Council of Canada. So this is kind of what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about uniform emergence, soil moistures and temperatures, checking your equipment, talk about seeding speed, seeding depth, the importance of saving a sample, as well as targeting a plant stand. When it comes to uniform emergence, that's the key that we're all shooting for. We all want to see that beautiful, lush, green, healthy crop. Even emergence will set you up for success in the rest of the growing season. A uniform crop will have a shorter flowering period, so there will be less disease risk. Also, timing your herbicide, fungicide, and swathing will be much easier when each plant is growing at the same rate with the same stressors. All of our thresholds, timing, and other data has always been based on an average plant stand of 7 plants per square foot. So if you have a reduced plant stand or a non-uniform plant stand, you will basically need to create your own thresholds for days to maturity and insects, etc. So later in the season, if you have a compromised plant stand, your insect thresholds will also be reduced. So just something to think about. Where's my, there we go. So this picture here is a picture of, not a good stand. Shows spottiness, patchiness, bare patches, and an uneven stand averaging 4 plants per square foot could actually cost us as much as 21% in yield compared to an even plant stand. So based on today's prices, a 40 bushel average yield in canola crop with a 20% yield drop on a section of land would add up to a $50,000 loss. So when you actually put numbers to it, that's very significant. This picture here is, what we all are shooting for, that awesome even germination, even emergence and uniformity. This was actually sown with a planter, a singulation planter. It's a converted corn planter, and this is something that the Manitoba Canola Growers Association is doing a lot of research with. It's kind of something that's new. People have been trying it for the last 3 years, but it's something we definitely want to do more of. So the Manitoba Canola Growers Association is going to have 15 field scale trials across the province this year, where we're actually going to do field scale comparisons of planters to air drills and document everything from the start to the finish so that we can do some actual data analysis on it. You guys have probably seen this slide. It's been around for years. It's definitely an important slide because it talks about germination over time. So you can see on the left-hand side, or the germination percentage, how long it takes to get the plant germinated, and then across the bottom, the number of days. And you can see, I just need to close my screen here, that the different degrees, the black is obviously the coolest temperature and the orange being the warmest temperature. So you can see that it takes much longer for a plant to germinate in cooler soil conditions. When we get in those warmer soil conditions, it's much easier for the plant. Sorry, I'm using a computer I'm not used to using. So most of our fields, we try to shoot for that. Obviously I'd like to see 10 degrees Celsius, but when it's 5 degrees Celsius, we typically get going. So most of our fields are going to be in this area. You can see here with the warmer conditions that even emergence and the uneven emergence. So when we talk about soil temperatures, how do you get out there and actually do this? So you want to look at your soil temperatures averaged over a minimum of 3 days. You want to take temperatures at that 1-inch seeding depth because that's what you're ideally shooting for to put your seed in. We would recommend you doing it twice a day for those 3 days and taking it at 2 different times. So 7 to 9 a.m., so a morning temperature, and then a 4 to 6 p.m. temperature for 3 days. We know that canola can imbibe water and germinate in 2 degrees Celsius soil temperature, but as you've seen in the last slide, it's going to take a lot longer for that plant to get out of the ground. So waiting for it to warm up to that 5 degrees Celsius as a minimum is really ideal. So when we talk about seeding into cool conditions, I'm going to use 5 degrees Celsius as my starting point. And so there's lots of things that we need to consider, but these are the 4 points that we always talk about. So for the first point is that you want to make sure you maintain or increase your seeding rates so you have a minimum of that 6 to 10 plants per square foot. The Canola Council of Canada has always recommended 7 to 14 plants per square foot, so make sure you target a minimum of 6 to 10 plants per square foot. Remembering that on average, only 50% of the seed sown will emerge when you have a 5 degrees Celsius soil temperature. We have to think about flea beetle treatment. If you've had flea beetles in that field in 2012, you want to make sure that you look at an extended flea beetle treatment for your early seeded canola this year, even if you just had flea beetle pressure last year in 2012. The optimum seeding depth and seeding speed, we want to encourage you to slow down, stop often, and make sure that the seed is in that 1/2 inch to 1 inch layer below the press wheel furrow. Do not chase moisture when you're going at 5 degrees Celsius. Especially if you're seeding earlier, you're likely to get some precipitation. So better to have the seed close to the soil surface to take advantage of any of those showers that you're going to have. The fourth thing is your weed competition. Make sure you do a good pre-seed burn-off so that the seedlings, which will already be struggling through that cold soil, don't have the added stress of weed competition. So what can we do right now? Because I know we're all antsy and ready to go. But, back home at the shop, it's time to get that drill ready. Check your openers, check your tanks, check the seals, rotate your hoses, check that the drill is level. You want to try and put it on, ideally a cement pad, and try and get it leveled from side to side and front to back. This is going to allow you the most time in the field. If you're trying to set that drill when you get to the first field, it's frustrating, it's hard. Take the time to do it in the shop, and then you'll just have to make minor adjustments when you get to the field. Also, you want to check your packer pressure because this can also affect your seeding depth. So this picture here is an example of uneven emergence because of an unlevel piece of equipment. You can see that some seeds got up and got out to a nice start, some seeds are just popping through the ground, and we barely have ground crack. So taking the time to level the drill will set you up for success. Also, once your equipment is level and you're in the field and you're ready to seed, the next step is to get up to operating speed and then stop your equipment and check each individual run to measure your seed depth. Conditions change from field to field, so therefore checking your depth regularly is important. You can't just set your drill in the first field and not worry about it for the rest of your canola, or for that fact the rest of your other crops. Taking the time early is going to reap you your rewards at the end. So in canola, our seedling mortality will average 40 to 65%, but can range from 20 to 80%. And these numbers are crazy to me. Our average seeding survivability is 50%. So we want to make sure that we get that 50%. This picture here shows us what a plant will look like coming out of the ground. On the left-hand side, a half-inch seeding depth. The middle one, that 1 inch to 1 1/4 inch depth. And on the far right-hand side, a 3-inch depth. You can see that the plant on the far right had to put a lot more energy into getting that plant out of the soil. So you can see the longer root, the really white root, the root that's stretched out. That plant's already used a lot of its energy just to get out of the ground. Whereas the plants on the left-hand side, got out of the ground, are starting to cabbage out, looking very, very nice. So the next few slides talk about a study that we did at the Lacombe Research Station from 2008 to 2010. It actually started in 2007, so I'll share that data as well. But this slide shows the canola emergence at different seeding speeds and depths. So you see 4 miles an hour and 7 miles an hour, and then a 1 centimeter seeding depth and a 4 centimeter seeding depth. And considering the seeding rate was 150 seeds per meter squared, the plant counts really aren't that impressive. I think it's really important to note here that there were rainfall differences in this data. So in 2008 and 2010 they had significant or normal rainfall. 2009 was almost like a drought year, having only 9 millimeters in a 3-week period when that plant was trying to emerge. This again, looking at the same data, only this chart shows the days to emergence. The plants that were seeded deeper had to work harder and longer to get out of the ground. This was especially noticeable in 2009 when there was very little moisture. The plants had to work harder, taking 9 or 10 days extra time to get out of that deeper seeding level. In 2008 and 2010, when there was adequate moisture, the plants emerged fairly evenly regardless of your speed or depth. So, rain can go a long way to fix our mistakes. When we look at the yield, again, very good yields. 2008, 2010, adequate moisture, not much difference. In 2009, when we did see the difference, when you sowed it deeper, we did see a decrease in yield. When we looked at the percent green, really not much difference in 2008, 2009. 2010 is an anomaly because we had hail damage followed by a frost. So I can't really say we can draw any conclusions here on seeding speed or seeding depth based on green seed counts. When we look at the same research farm in 2007, this is where we started the trial from, because it didn't matter when you were sowing at 4 miles per hour, you still got decent emergence at the 1 centimeter and the 4 centimeter depth. But when you went to the 7 miles an hour, you saw decreased emergence. In both cases, less than 50% emergence. And so I think that this is important stuff to look at. That slowing down and looking and controlling your depth can make a big difference. Just some visual photos of you. So we had an open pollinated variety, 3465, in the trial, as well as a hybrid variety, 7145. Shows you that, at that 1 centimeter seeding depth, you're going to get a much more even stand, even at the 7 miles per hour. a little spotty at the, the far end of the trial, but generally speaking, we'd be happy with either of those stands. On the right-hand side, you see that 4 centimeter seeding depth, which still isn't really that deep, but you can see how the germination gets spotty, and we just don't have the plant stand that we're looking for. Same thing here with the hybrid variety. Again, that 1 centimeter seeding depth is definitely the positive way to go. So we are often asked, what is the ideal seeding speed? And you know what? If you can seed at 8 miles an hour and still get consistent seed placement in that 1/2 inch to 1 inch depth, while giving adequate separation between your fertilizer and seed, all the power to you. But if you need to slow down to 4 miles an hour, that's great too. There is no ideal speed. It's always going to be based on your soil and your equipment. And my advice to you would be, when in doubt, stop, get out, and check that seed depth and uniformity. When you think about it, the difference between 3 or 4 miles an hour and 5 miles an hour, it's really not going to make that much difference. On a 1,000-acre canola farm, you are probably talking 1 day of extra seeding. So taking the time to slow down and set yourself up for success is worth it early in the season. Slowing down while seeding allows for accurate seed placement and proper separation between the seed and fertilizer. Faster speeds often mean higher fan speeds, which can also cause seed damage. So we really want to encourage targeting that 1/2 to 1 inch deep consistently. So it's not just, going faster gets it in the ground faster. We also talk about the actual disturbance that drill is causing. So the next 3 slides show what your soil disturbance or stubble disturbance looks like at different seeding speeds. Here, 4.1 miles per hour. Here we go 5 miles an hour. And here's 6.2 miles an hour. So you can see that you're getting a lot more stubble disturbance the faster you go through that field. You're also getting trash cover or soil, like dirt cover, on your rows. So, you may think you're actually getting that 1/2 inch to 1 inch seeding depth, but now you're tossing soil onto your rows and burying your rows. So now you're actually, 1.5, 2 inches deep. So slowing down pays off. Here's the exact same information. This study was done with those stubbles that I just showed you. You can see that the average depth at 4.1 miles per hour was 3/4 of an inch, at 5 was 1.1 inches, and at 6.2 was 1.5. But what's really important to take away here is the range of depths. When your seeding speed is 4.1, you're getting that 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of depth as your range. When you go up to 5 miles an hour, again, 1/2 inch to 1 3/4 inches. When you go to 6.2 miles per hour, you're seeing anything from 0 inches to 3 inches. So you're getting a lot more range of depth. You're getting seeds that aren't even getting put into the soil. They're just sitting on the soil surface. And then you're getting other seeds that are being completely buried. So, again, slowing down will pay. This picture just shows us what we can actually see in the seeding shelf. This was taken on a 5.3 mile per hour seeding speed. You can see that your seed is in your fertilizer row, your seed is in the fertilizer row, and the seed is on the seeding shelf. So you're getting things not where you want them to be. This photo here shows us buried rows from excessive speed. Notice that the rows that are buried are behind and smaller, so again, you're not getting that nice uniform stand that you're looking for. Generally speaking, I think we'd all be pretty happy with this if this was our field, but it just talks or shows the point that you definitely want to set yourself up for success to try and get that even emergence. This is beautiful. Uniform stand, seeding speed of 4.2 miles per hour. We're going to be really happy if this is what our crop looks like. If you're not willing to slow down, If high speeds tend to have less seedling emergence than ideal speeds, then the logic would dictate that the faster you go, the more you should increase your seeding rate. Less emergence means you're going to have less competitive weeds and therefore a potential for more herbicide use. Uneven plant stands tend to have later harvests, so this could put you at a higher risk for a frost in the fall. So, you know what, the choice is up to you, and I know it's different for everybody on their farm, but all of the information that we've seen supports slowing down at seeding. This one just shows an example of deep seeding. Here, not uniform. We've already talked about the problems that can result from an uneven stand, weed control issues, staging for fungicides, swathing issues. You want to make sure you seed shallow. This picture shows, the issues with straw management. This begins last fall. If you are able to get on the field and get fall work done, that's great. But if you can't, make sure you manage that stubble before you try and put the canola in this spring. Stubble can create issues for us and can cause hairpinning. It can cause, missed seeds. So taking time to set your field up for success. So we're going to totally shift gears and talk about, what you can do. Sometimes you can do everything right, but still there ends up being a problem in your field. So if you save a little bit of your seed from each variety and seed lot, you'll be able to at least discount seed problems as a cause. You will never know that a problem is not caused by the seed if you don't have a sample to test. So we encourage for each lot of seed you save that you make sure you record any relevant information and keep the seed bag, the blue tag, with the sample. You should try and keep the seed in a paper or cloth bag in a cool, dry place. Don't put it in a Ziploc bag. So this is the blue seed tag that we all see on our canola bags. When it comes to calculating our seeding rates, if you're seeding into warm, moist soil, you should expect 70 to 90% emergence on average. But if you are seeding into cool or dry soils, you will likely see 35 to 50% emergence. On average, you can figure out your seeding rate by using 60% as an average and looking at each seed lot's 1,000 seed weight. This is where you'll find your 1,000 kernel weight or 1,000 seed weight on your actual bags. So you can actually see it on the pallet, you can see it on the canola bag, or you can see it on the tag there. Excuse me. So to maximize your yield potential, our ideal plant populations range from that 7 to 14 plants per square foot. At any set seeding rate, the typical average for emergence is around 60%, depending on your field conditions. The plant population will also be affected by seed size. So these tables show us the impact that 1,000 seed weight and percent survival can have on canola plant densities for a variety of different seeding rates. The shaded areas in the table represent plant populations sufficient to ensure optimum yields. So we talk about a formula for success. So often we talk about canola and we're sowing 4 pounds an acre, 5 pounds an acre, 6 pounds an acre. But with all these different seed sides, we'd like to actually talk about 1,000 seed weight or 1,000 kernel weight. So what you want to do is take that 9.6 times by your desired plants per square foot, multiplied by your 1,000 kernel weight, and then divided by your estimated seed survival. So for our example, 9.6 times by 10 plants per square foot times 1,000 seed weight of 5.03 divided by 60% seed survivability. That means you would need to sow at 8 pounds per acre to actually get that 10 plants per square foot. Now, if you are sowing into warm soils, not early in the season, so if you're at that 10 degrees Celsius, you can probably get away with saying 80% seed survivability, and then you would be able to reduce your seeding rate to 6 pounds per acre. So again, you've probably seen this slide many times. This is a study that was, or it's not even a study, it's a compilation of hundreds of trials across Western Canada, compiled by Murray Hartman in 2005. Murray Hartman is the oilseed specialist for Alberta, but he does a lot of work with the Canola Council, so this is a complete data set from all across Western Canada. And what he did was he tried to take the top yielding plant populations in each trial at 100%, then he related the rest of the treatments to that. The response is a thick band rather than a line because no one plant population wins every time. But the wider the band, the more variable the yields were at the plant population. So this is a really good reason why you want to plant that 10 plants per square foot. So we're going to look at 3 different things here. You need about 5 plants per square foot to have a chance of achieving 100% yield. Full yield potential of the genetics under the conditions the trial was conducted. You know, when we talk crop insurance, they won't write a canola crop off if it has 4 plants per square foot. If you have less than 4 plants per square foot, then they'll consider writing it off. So this shows you where that data is. At approximately 3 plants per square foot, which is highlighted here with the red line, it is possible for the plants to compensate to produce as much as 90% of the yield potential. But under poor conditions, it can be as low as around 65%. So again, more variability in the response, hence the wider band. Here, at 10 plants per square foot, the band narrows up to produce yields that are consistently within that 10% of the full yield potential. Slightly better average yield, but less variability in performance. So this is why we really want to see 10 plants per square foot. How do you know if you have 10 plants per square foot? You need to get out and actually do some measurements. So, you know, a hula hoop is a great way to do this. These hula hoops here represent an area of 1/4 meter square. All of the pictures were taken in the same field, indicating the variability in emergence that can occur. If a grower targets that 5 or 6 plants per square foot by cutting back your seeding rates, it increases the odds that a significant portion of the field will wind up looking like the bottom picture with reduced yield potential. The picture in the top right represents a stand that will typically be much more successful at producing good yields and therefore greater profits. So again, you can make the choice to cut your seeding rate, but you're not necessarily going to set yourself up for success. Sorry, I probably should have clicked it sooner. Obviously here, that 2.2 plants per square foot versus the 8.6 plants per square foot. When your plant stand is compromised, you will likely see more patches with no canola plants growing in them. If no crop is growing there, weeds will be more of a threat and timely herbicide applications will become vital. You may even need additional applications of herbicide to keep your crop competitive and to save your yield, costing you additional money. Insect thresholds, as mentioned before, are based on optimum plant stands. So if your plants per square foot are lower than recommended, insects at lower than recommended threshold levels could cause yield losses. Excuse me. As mentioned before again, your maturity could be delayed and or uneven, putting you at risk of frost. Lower populations will result in the majority of pods on branches rather than the main stem. Your swathing strategy will be a little different, and you may end up with a smaller seed, higher green seeds, and overall yield loss. Individually or altogether, those issues are threats to your profit. So although this plant is very impressive, you know, it's branched out, it looks vigorous, you know, a whole bunch of these don't necessarily create greater yield because, as mentioned, all of your pods are on your branches rather than on your main stem. So something like this on the left-hand side, which is what we typically will see in our fields, you know, the main stem having the majority of the podding with some of the stems, you're going to have nice even seeds. You're not going to have issues with green seed. You're not going to have issues with frost. Your timing of swathing is going to work much better. Whereas the plant on the right-hand side, you can see that some of it's podded. It's not going to be nice big seeds. You still are flowering. You're going to have issues with swathing timing. You're going to run into frost issues and likely have green seed problems. So just a little wrap up. I think the key messages to take away today are take the time to properly check and level your equipment. Taking time now will give you, more time in the field. Check your seed bed temperature. Know what your temperatures are. Don't just say, oh, my neighbor says it's 5 degrees Celsius, so I'm going to go. Different soil types and different landscapes warm up differently. Ideally, you want to shoot to seed that seed consistently at that 1/2 to 1 inch seeding depth. We're always aiming for a uniform stand. Make sure you keep a seed sample because it's your only defense when it comes to arguing or disagreeing if you're having issues later on. Make sure you take the time to calculate your seeding rates. Make sure you look and see if your 1,000 kernel weights are all the same when you pick up your lot of seed from the guy. If they give you 2 different lots and it's 4.1 and 7.2, that's a huge difference. Also, you want to target 10 plants per square foot. There is one more thing I do want to talk about, and if Lionel gives me some time here. The Canola Council has spent a significant amount of time and resources to put this together. It's a canola diagnostic tool, and what it's meant to do is help you throughout the growing season. If you have an issue in your field and you're not sure what it is, obviously there's lots of people you can reach out to, but we hope you'll use this tool to, maybe do some of the diagnosis on your own or to learn more about the canola crop. So all you do is go to the Canola Council of Canada website. It'll take you right to the diagnostic tool. There's a link right on the website. You come down here and you click Get Started. And it's going to ask you to select your plant stage. So depending on what stage your plant is in, germination stage, rosette, bud, bolting, flowering, or harvest timing, that's how you'll select. It'll then ask you what plant parts are affected. So, is it the first 2 true leaves? Is it the roots? Where is the damage occurring? It'll then ask you a series of questions, and then it will give you possible issues or possible potential causes. And it breaks it down by disease, insect, management issues, as well as environmental factors. So then you go and click on, for this example, we'll click on disease, and it's going to tell us that 2 of the possible diseases, 3 of them are here, alternaria black spot, blackleg, or downy mildew. So then it gives you more information about what's going on, gives you lots of photos so that you can do a visual comparison, tells you what to look for, and diagnostic steps or what you can do. So a great tool to use. I encourage you to try it out before the season when you have a little bit of time to play. I had the opportunity to spend about a month playing with it before it got launched, and it's very impressive what it can come up with. So, as always, I am available to help you throughout the growing season. There's my number. I actually have a new cell phone number, so feel free to give me a call or my email address. And throughout the growing season, I will be doing daily updates on Twitter. So, if I'm seeing anything suspicious or disease moving in or insects coming in a certain area, I'll definitely be tweeting that. And yeah, are there any questions?
Kristen, I think you actually did a pretty good job, but the questions that I did had related to seeding rates. One of them was the economics of sowing between 6 and 8 pounds per acre, and the other one was any comments that you had about if they were seeding less than 5 pounds. So unless you had other comments that you wanted to make. I think you answered a lot of that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we talk about seeding rates, we consistently say 5 pounds per acre. But then when we actually do the math with the different 1,000 kernel weights, we're seeing that some guys are getting down in that, 3.5, 4 pounds per acre, and then they're only getting 3, 4 plants per square foot. And then they're wondering why they're not getting good plant stands and good yields. Ideally we would like to see our seedling survivability increase, but until we figure out how to get more than 50% emergence, we're going to have to set ourselves up for success by giving ourselves the best chance possible. So shooting for that, you know, even I think, you know, that 7 to 10 plants per square foot, that's ideal. Definitely economics. I mean, with the price of canola seed, there is a big difference between 6 pounds and 8 pounds. But, you know, if you're not willing to take the time to slow down and check your seeding depth and do all those things, then you're going to want to make sure you put more seeds in the ground. If you take the time, slow down, check your seeding depth, wait for the soil to warm up a little bit, you're definitely going to be able to cut back to that 6 pound, you know, 5 pounds, 6 pounds. So I hope I've answered the question.
Good, Kristen. Yeah, no, I think it was a real good presentation and lots of really good information. Linda, if you could give me my screen back. And I guess we're just about ready to end off for today. I'd like to apologize for my voice. I tried to take on a panel gate last night, and I got a little bit of a swollen nose this morning. So that's why it's maybe not quite as clear from my side today. But once again, here's the contact information for myself and for Linda at the office here in Ceres. And then also here's the other information for the FPAs in the Southwest and South Parkland and their cell numbers. So again, just another quick reminder about the winter wheat survival meetings that are going to be coming up on May the 1st and May the 2nd, May 1st in Hamiota and May 2nd in Ceres. And if you're interested in coming or would like to know more information about them, if you want, you can contact any of the people that are on the list here or myself or Linda at the office here. So with that, Linda, if there's no questions, we will end the webinar.